One beautiful Saturday morning, I had just gotten up and had breakfast when a neighbor knocked on my door. I opened the door, we exchanged greetings, and just chatted for a few moments. I didn't mind. I knew that Sylvia would get to the reason for her visit sooner or later. She always needed time to get to the point. Sylvia and Martin, her husband, were new to the area. They were friendly enough, and Sylvia turned out to be a little flirtatious, but always quite polite in her flirting, never going too far and not embarrassing anyone. She was in her early 20s and quite attractive, fair skin complemented by very blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She was also, as I would say, generously gifted in the bust area without being overly gifted. We came to the moment when I was given to understand that Martin was not at home. He left yesterday for a conference he was supposed to attend and won't be back until Monday. So, I was wondering if you could help me, Sylvia finished. Maybe, I admitted, but I can get a better idea of it if you tell me what this little job is. Didn't I tell you? She asked with a laugh. It's because of that stupid faucet in the kitchen. It keeps dripping, and it's driving me crazy. I know you repair everything yourself, so I thought maybe you could replace the faucet for me. Not the hardest thing in the world. I would only need to unscrew the faucet, replace the gasket, and screw the faucet back on. Easy as pie. No problem, I assured her. I'll come right now and do everything. Why don't you go and turn off the water again while I get my tools? Do you have a new faucet? If not, I have some spare parts. Oh yes, I have spare parts, she said. Martin bought some. He just didn't have the opportunity to replace it. If he had been at home, he would have done it last night just to get some sleep. She ran to turn off the water, and soon I followed her with my portable toolbox. The first thing I did when I got there was turn on the faucet to make sure she turned off the water correctly. I disassembled the faucet, threw the crumbling gasket aside, inserted a new one, and reassembled the faucet. A couple of minutes, and the job was done. Martin was a lazy man if he couldn't find 2 minutes for it. Sylvia ran out to turn on the water, and I turned on the faucet. The water flowed. I turned off the faucet, and the water stopped without dropping a drop. The problem is solved. She insisted that I sit down while she made us a cup of coffee, which I did. I didn't mind talking to a pretty woman, not that I have anything more important than that. She fussed, turning on the coffee maker, and then reached for a couple of mugs. That's when everything became interesting. Sylvia opened the top locker, and it turned out that the mugs she needed were right at the top. She stood on tiptoe, reaching up, and her robe lifted as she stretched. I got to my feet and quietly approached her from behind. Now the mugs were on the table, but there was a slight blush on her cheeks, and she was breathing a little harder. My hand slid over her buttocks, first down, then up again, but under the dress on the way up, running my palms over her smooth body. She gasped. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, trying to sound shocked but succeeded only in making her voice sound a little breathless and agitated. It occurred to me that there was another little routine work that Martin hadn't finished, so I thought that since I was here, I could do that too. "But you can't do that," she gasped. "I didn't say you could do it." I ignored her comment. She didn't say I shouldn't do it, and her resistance was purely verbal. Her body pressed against my arms just as my hands pressed against her body. "Oh my God, you're really going to do this? It's so embarrassing. I never thought you'd do something like that." Awkward. I asked myself, a strangely chosen word. However, I wasn't worried about it. By touching her while she was dressed, she could claim that she couldn't stop me and it wasn't her fault. We really shouldn't. Shouldn't what? I asked. She screamed something that sounded like wow, stretching out the word as she pressed her back firmly against me. Let me tell you that she felt wonderful, and we had a great time. At least I know I enjoyed it. It was great. I gave her everything I had, as if I had any choice in this matter. I relaxed while she just leaned against the counter for a couple of moments. I was wondering how she would react now, and how I would be able to take off her dress. It was not meant to be. She suddenly straightened up and turned to face me. "I can't believe you did this to me," she said out of the blue, as if she was just standing there as an unwitting spectator. "Get out," she said, "and don't ever talk to me again." She was busy kicking me out of the kitchen, so I grabbed my toolbox and left. "Listen," I said, leaving, "if you have any more problems with dripping taps, just shout to me. You know where I am." She nodded and closed the door firmly behind me. I went home. The rest of the day passed without incident, but in the evening, I thought I'd go over and knocked on Sylvia's door. I think she must have gone to bed early because she was wearing a frilly robe. She seemed to step back a little when she saw me. "What do you want?" "What is it?" she asked suspiciously. I thought that if Martin is still away, he won't be able to do the little things that you need, so I decided to come in and see if I could replace him. Are you crazy? What is it? She asked in a voice that was half a scream. I think you've done enough for today. She turned and walked down the corridor. Seeing that she didn't bother to close the door, I naturally followed her. She did not go down to the kitchen but went to the front room. Sylvia looked at me intently. Do you have any idea how guilty you made me feel? I feel terrible. I feel like I didn't give a damn about my husband's feelings, and it's all your fault. Technically, she was really with someone else, but I deny that it was my fault, not that I was going to say that. Instead, I considered the question judiciously. If you feel guilty about it, then you will continue to feel that way until you feel that you have been punished. I can help you with that. This is ridiculous. Well, we would just have to impose a punishment commensurate with the crime. You've got to be kidding, she said quite categorically, looking at me as if I had gone mad. Why? It seems reasonable to me. It will be a useful lesson that will make you repent and be satisfied that you have received the punishment appropriate for your offense. She just stared at me, not knowing what to say. Seeing that she didn't say anything, especially not something like "no, I won't do it," I went to the sofa and sat down. Come on, I said, patting my knee. You know how they say the sooner you start, the sooner you'll finish. Well, you know what they can do with their PY sayings, whoever they are, she snapped, but despite everything, she moved closer to me. I reached out, caught her hand, and slowly pulled her to me. I didn't use any real force, just put enough pressure on her arm to make her move closer. As soon as she was next to me, my hand lay on her back and pressed, and she bent over my knee in an almost fabulous state. Hey! What are you doing? She demanded an answer. I'll punish you, remember? I said. I raised my hand and quickly lowered it down, and Sylvia squealed with satisfaction. What are you doing? She demanded. That should almost be enough, I finally said. I'm just going to give you a little finishing touch here. While she was recovering from an unexpected climax, I laid her on the floor. It turned out that her robe was fastened only with a tie, and she very quickly untied when I opened the robe wide. What are you doing? What is it? What is it? She asked, fiddling with the edges of her robe but achieving nothing since I kept it unbuttoned. Do you remember what I said? I asked, and she blushed and nodded. I hope that was a lesson for you, I said. Later when you behave badly, there is always a punishment. She nodded, then gave me a strange look. Ah, but didn't you behave badly too? Of course not, I said. I'm not married. I'm allowed to do this kind of thing. Anyway, this evening I just made the amendment to your vows that I thought you needed, a good deed on my part. She didn't say anything to that. She just took one more look at me and then kicked me out of the house. I went home to sleep, and she probably went to bed to catch up on lost sleep because of the dripping faucet.